Okay. If you were working for me and they'd say, what's your mission? We would say, taking Torah to Africa. And I just explained right here why it's important. You can look on the left, and that's the continent of Africa. And you see how small Uganda is? It's about the size of Oregon, 34 million people. So it's become quite populated. And then on the right, you can see where Tororo is. On the very, very bottom is Lake Victoria. And so we go north and we go east, and it's about 5 miles from Kenya. And Tororo has become a busier place than when I first moved there. When I first moved there, one bank. And you could stand in line to use the bank outside and winding in the sunshine. Now we must have 5 or 6 because Uganda is landlocked. And they have inland ports. And they have closed all the other 10 ports. And they have one port now that's about 6 miles from our place in Malaba. And this has been a real boost kind of in our economy, whatever. Yes, it's one of the poorest countries in the world. There's 2.5 million orphans. 1.5 are probably due to AIDS. And if I get a chance to tell you some of the stories of the children, a number of them come to me because of AIDS. No, I never got them tested. They're fine. So people always ask me that. And many live in the rural part of the country. They're the women, especially 90% of the women. The women are expected to provide the food for the family. So she lives in the village, and she has a hoe, and she digs the ground with this hoe and plants, and that's to sustain her family. The man may do a few crops, but they're cash crops, tea, coffee. And if the man has enough money, he'll help with the school fees if he has a good heart. Many times they describe people by a good heart or a bad heart. So, population, most of them live on less than $1 a day, about $332 a year. There has been economic growth, but it has not changed or reduced the poverty. Life expectancy, 52 is the age. And the main language, they have 40 different languages. I should have probably pressed. I meant to be on the map, I'm sorry. They have 40 languages, but they were a colony of the British, and the government language is English. So if you would like to visit, we do speak mostly English in our home most of the time. You can always find an interpreter, and we are organizing, getting a team organized to come over. And you can see there now closer where you see the word Sessi Islands. That's right on Lake Victoria, and you can see where Tororo is. If you go to the right on the eastern side, the Sessi Islands, we have a Messianic congregation there. This Messianic message has spread like wildfire. And I have been begging and begging everybody I know, please, we need help. I can't do this. And God has answered that prayer. Might as well tell you right now, I won't keep you suspicious, but there was a young man in Florida who has his master's in the administration of education. And he was doing that for a Bible college, sending up online all over. You know how you have give courses out on the different, whatever they call that. I don't know what they call it, but anyway. And somehow somebody from Uganda, I know, the leader of the Ugandan Messianic community got a hold of him on Facebook and asked him to come and start yeshivas. And we have been working on that. We have met with him, and he will be there in January, and he is going to start yeshivas for us. And we have the leaders kind of picked, and we're very, very happy. Oops, I moved and I didn't. So I went too far now. I'll get used to this. If you come to the eastern part, there's the Mount Elgon peaks right there. And I don't know if any of you have heard of the Mount Elgon Jews. 1880, a man missionaries came, he got the Bible. Look it up on your Google. It's an interesting story. I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but he started reading the scriptures, and he said to the missionaries, how about the Old Testament? And they said, don't worry about that. That's not for you. But he didn't listen. He studied and studied it. He began to keep the Sabbath. He started to do circumcision. And one day he told an Arab man what he was doing, and the Arab man said to him, you can't do that. You're not a Jew. He said, well, then I'm a Jew. And he has been very stubborn. And at one time, there were 3,000 Jewish people in Mount Elgon. They were practicing. And but, of course, I don't know if you've heard of Idi Amin. Idi Amin didn't like them. And they really, really diminished. But they're becoming stronger. And then, I must also tell you the good news. A rabbi from the East, a conservative rabbi who was saved and believed in Yeshua, came and tried to convince them. And some of them accepted, but those who accepted were shunned, and we'll have pictures of them. We're working with them. Now, most of the places I go, if I go to the churches who never had the Old Testament, they don't even know the creation story. One day I told the creation story in the village, and they were so amazed that I could do that without even reading and notes. You know, they were just amazed. But so they want to hear these stories, you know, the Tanakh, the stories out of the Old Testament. But if you go to the Jews that now believe in Yeshua, they want you to teach on the New Testament. So be prepared for both. Let me see. Did I say the economic growth hasn't improved the poverty? I said that. So, because you may get government reports making it look like, oh, everything's going good there. Yeah, it's still the same. So as we travel east, I must be pressing the wrong thing. It's not going for me. Oh, isn't? It's not. Instead, something's come. Things have come up. Oh, now it's going over there. Maybe now it's going to work. Because now that game.
It's the side to side, not the up and down.
Oh, maybe I hit it accidentally. Can you fix it for me? Computers and me.
Just these two.
I'll try to remember.
Limited real estate.
Limited real estate. So you're in the east now, and you have come to Tororo. This is one of the main roundabouts. And you see the rock in the back. That's the Tororo Rock, and I live right near the base of the rock. That's about the only thing that's really interesting if you're a tourist. So I don't expect to be real entertained. We don't have wild animals. We have monkeys. You'll see monkeys. But it has a population of 44,000. The district has about 500,000. We are 140 miles away from Kampala, the only modern city in Uganda, which I go there about once a month. Just to take care of things. I may need to do shopping, I may need to do banking, whatever. It takes about 4 or 5 hours to drive there. The road has been rebuilt. Years ago, it was so bad. If I tried to tell you how bad, you wouldn't know. You couldn't picture it. So I had a visitor from America, and I kept saying we were in Kampala, and they kept taking their time, and I kept saying, we've got to go. The road is bad. We need to get going, because driving in the dark on those roads is not good. I could tell you some missionaries just had a horrible accident driving at night. So finally, we got home. She said to me, Emily, I just didn't know how bad. So the next time when we took her back to go to the airport, she went to the pharmacy and got some Valium. For those that don't know, Valium calms you down. It makes it easier. It has one of the largest mineral deposits of phosphorus in the world, but they aren't really doing too much about it. I think one of the problems is they would have to remove a lot of people from the land where they're living. And it has a very, very large cement factory. About 20,000 metric tons of cement daily. And when I first moved to where I'm living, where I built my house, I'll show you my house. The road was not too extremely busy, but now it's very busy because Tomorrow Cement got the contract for Southern Sudan when they became independent. Trucks night and day. If you visit me, bring your earplugs. So we're going to go around on this roundabout towards the mountain or the rock. And here's my gate. You just turn off the main road on a little dirt road. You will come in the gate. And as you come in the gate, all kinds, I didn't mean for that one to be there. Just let me go ahead. One's not showing up. Oh, that one. Boys will come out of the building to come and see who's there. And I had a Maine police officer come one day, and all the boys come out of the building, and he says, well, you got security here. I hope to tell you some of the stories. The boy in the blue, Nelson, is now our acting administrator, and he's very good and being very faithful. Let me just try one more. That's the red door there is the kitchen. You'll get a picture of the kitchen. And this is Helen. And I could tell you a little story about her. One Sabbath, a young man, about 13 or 14, came to our house. Now, here's the biggest and the hardest thing to live there. Everybody needs help. Who do you help? And not only does everyone need help, there are those who come and try to deceive you to get help and don't tell you true stories. So the young man that was working with me said, Emily, I need to check this out. So he went with the boy to investigate to see if the story was true. It was very sad. Their mother had left it. The oldest boy that came, 13 or 14, and there were 3 other younger ones living in this house that at any moment could fall down. And if just what Russell said, one more rainstorm and that house is going to fall over. And it was Sunday afternoon. They had not had food since Friday. Their mother had gone to the village. She didn't come back. The oldest boy had gone out and tried to find jobs and even had worked a few jobs and they wouldn't pay him, which is common there. Taking another thing they need to learn, taking advantage of the orphans and the widows. Common. And the girls would go out and look for firewood, hoping he'd bring food home, but he didn't. Well, I found out later the mother had gone home and got malaria and was too sick to come back. So I told them, as soon as she gets back, I want to talk to her, because we knew this was a desperate situation. So she came back, and people, I never do this. In fact, I don't even encourage people to do that. But you know how the Lord can put something in your mind. And as I looked at this lady, I saw a good heart. And I was getting ready to leave for America, and I knew I needed a house mother. And so it was like Lord put in my mind and said, this is your house mother. And she has been a blessing. And not only that, she has about 8 children, and they all come and they're all learning Torah. So she's mopping our veranda. We cook outside. You'll see a picture of us cooking right next to what somebody calls a tiki hut. I call it a shelter. And we do all our eating in the shelter there. If strangers come to visit me, they do not come in the house. We meet in the shelter. Very important, because stealing is, everyone steals them out. And you can't trust them, so only people I know come in my house. See, we did that because I wanted, that's the front of the house. It's very small. I don't know, I put down 1,000 square feet, but I don't even know how big that is. I don't know if I guessed or measured. It has 2 bedrooms. One side I'm on with the bathroom, and on the other side, the 3 girls. We've had more of the girls, but just at the moment we have 3. Have 2 bedrooms and a bath on the other side of the house. And the boys live in what we call the storage building, and you'll see a picture of that. Our kitchen, and there's Helen. And For most people, I have a pretty nice modern kitchen. I have a sink and I have they call it a cooker. And this thing right in the front, two things I have that are very modern, a rice cooker and a hot kettle. Important to us. Can't live without them. And one day, the chicken wants to lay an egg. So that's our cabinet. They don't put cupboards in, it's the cabinet. And we're preparing for Sabbath. Here's another one, Judith. All of my workers are there because they came to me with such desperate needs, so I try to find them jobs. This is Judith. So she comes and she mops all the floors. There's cement. They get muddy. In front of the compound is dirt. Now, you will look at pictures of huts in the villages, and it's always brown dirt. You can see where they sliced the grass, and they just have dirt there. Well, Americans want grass up to the door, but they don't, because if you have grass, higher chance of snakes. So in front of our door, but we park our car there too, so it's all dirt, and dirt gets in the house when you have dirt in front of the doors, muddy, and you see how they mop the cement. They dump water, and then Now, that's Anna, and I have taught her to make challah bread, and that's what she's doing this is Friday. Judith comes on Friday, so we're ready for Sabbath, and she comes on Monday to clean up after all the big weekend. So, another one of our workers, he's what we call the slasher man. I'm trying to think of his real name. It's an American name. But anyway, I'll think of it maybe. I had an incident where I was inside the house, and the boys were sitting on that veranda where they were mopping, and I heard some shouting. And I went out, and as I was sitting having tea, a gecko had fallen down because there was a black mamba up near. We had a trap door to go up between the roof and the ceiling. And of course, the gecko was trying to get away from the snake, very poisonous. And there was shouts. And it went inside that trap. So now we know middle of the day, what do I do? So we thought, well, we'll wait for the guard to come, and I'll tell you about the guard. And he can maybe help us. So he came, and he got an old tire, and he went to burning the tire and creating smoke. And he did that for quite a while and came to me and said, Emily, the snake is gone. Okay. He said, either it's dead or it left. I go to bed and I said to myself, there's a snake in this house. But I said, I'm not going to lose sleep. It's down on the other end of the house. 2 weeks later, I'm outside. Now, you have white plastic bags you carry your groceries home with. Well, theirs are black. Call them caveras. So if I use the word cavera, you know what I'm saying. And people just throw their trash. And we have a high wall fence, and they take and throw their trash into our compound as they walk along this dirt road. And so I decided nobody was home. I thought, well, I'll go pick up all these black caveras in the compound. And right on the veranda, I picked up the black cavera, and there was a snake, the black snake. I go, that's a snake. It's a snake. Now what do? I've never killed a snake in my life. And you can't leave it to go get something to kill it with, because you got to watch it so you know if it leaves where it goes. I stood there. And finally, there were some men going by on bicycles who give people rides. They're called boda-bodas, give people rides on their bikes, taxis. I says, come here. There's a snake. And they killed it. So, and said, very poisonous. So I decided we better have somebody here who cleans this grass up in our compound and outside the compound. So he comes 2 mornings a week. You see, he has his shovel, and he slashes the grass, and he cleans things up, and he has killed another poisonous snake. But it was there because we had rocks in a pile from building, and you don't want rocks for snakes to dwell in. And So we have guards. I don't know if I should tell you how we got a guard. Well, one year, well, two reasons. I had just come back from America. We rented the first year I was in Truro. I spent my first year in Kampala, and then I moved to Truro and started building my house here. And we were still renting. I came back from America. And when you come back from America, you know, you bring things. You have I had 3 suitcases that time. And I had a couple $100 in my pocket. And about 12:30, the dog starts to bark just horrible. And the kids all looked at me and said, "Mom, there's thieves out there." So we called the police. And they didn't come, and they didn't come. So I went and got the tambourines and the shofars. And we banged tambourines and blew shofars. So finally it got quiet, and the dog was quiet, and we thought everything's okay now. So we called the police and said, "Why didn't you come?" They said, "We don't have transportation." They said, "You come and tell us what's wrong." And we thought, "Well, thief, will you please let me out of this compound so I can go report you to the police?" No. And at the moment, the car I had was not it was at the shop. So then the dog, 4 o'clock, I thought, "Oh, I can go to bed." Dog started barking again. So all the way for the next 2 hours, it was bang the tambourines and blow the shofar. But it worked, and it was a long night. I said, "I'm getting a guard. I'm done with this." And so we got a guard, and we hired from an agency, but they would come drunk, and we had problems. And finally, a pastor came and said, "Emily, do you need a guard?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, there's a man in our church who just got saved. He's in the military. He doesn't want to go back. He wants to stay with his family, and he needs a job." That was over 10 years ago. We hired John. He has become like a father to us. You know, they love soccer. You kids watch the World Series. They love soccer. So every once in a while in the evenings, the boys will go out to watch, they call it football. And it's late and it's dark, and all I have to do is just tell the guard, and they'll tell them who's going, when they're going, and I can go to bed. He'll unlock the gate. He'll make sure every one of them is there. He's been a blessing. And he's saved. And with the money, he can send his children to school. With the money, he can send his children to school. And we have 2 guards, actually, one on the weekend and the regular one. Okay, so we keep Sabbath. Okay, grape juice is imported, very expensive. I would have to carry it from Kampala. So we use passion fruit, which grows on a vine. This is the passion fruit. There's little seeds in it, and you have to dig that inside out. But as you dig it out, you get seeds. So there's Alex pushing the passion fruit he dug out through a sieve. Preparing our juice. This is the only time the whole week we turn the refrigerator on, a little college-sized refrigerator. And I put the water in Thursday night so the water's cold. And we serve them a cold drink of passion juice on Friday night. And he would spend 3 to 4 hours making this passion juice. So finally I was able to find a blender in Kampala where you put like a sieve inside. I asked around. And so now he can do it in about an hour and a half. He says, "Oh, that's so good. Now I can eat lunch." Alex was one of the first boys to come into my home. I hope I have time for his story. I need my water. Forgot my water. Don't know why my throat is dry today. But okay, another reason to have Torah, the rice. They're sorting the rice because many times you have to dry rice and they will just throw it right on dirty cement on the ground. And of course, when they bag it up, pieces of sand go in with it and rocks. And maybe it's not quite as much as many pounds as they need. I just might add some white stones to increase the pounds. So you have to sort it piece by piece by piece. So you try to prepare for Sabbath, and I forget 12 cups of rice we cook for Sabbath. Huge. So the boys will help us sometimes, and anyway. So when I went to the dentist in America, I usually go in Uganda, but last time I was home, I got a toothache, and I had to go to an American dentist. And, they're checking my teeth, and I hear her stating number. And I get to the dentist, he said, we can't understand, but so many of your teeth are chipped. I says, oh, when I eat rice, I'm biting on stones. It's the truth. I wasn't lying. That's how we cook. That's a tire rim. I do have my cooker in the kitchen, but propane is quite expensive. That's charcoal. And she is frying soybeans for breakfast. Monica. This is our storage building. And when they built, they used the local homemade bricks, but they do not hold up to moisture. And so we had built this quite a few years ago, and mold was growing out of them. They were getting soft. And in fact, my neighbor man said, Emily, I was going to come over and talk to you. And finally one day, one of the boys in my house said, my uncle's a builder. He's coming home for the holidays. Shall we get him to do this? I said, do it. And I want you to notice the man on the wheelbarrow has no shoes on. They mix the cement themselves, barefoot, whatever. And there's Nelson looking at our finished product. And this is the first floor. We could have 3 or 4. And the boys sleep in this. And there's one main room where we have services. And that's not, it's coming different than I expect. There, around the wall there, we plant matoke. That's the banana you cook. The boys are planting matoke there. We're inside. Nelson is at our menorah in our, what do you call it? The ark, where you keep our $50 scroll, Torah scroll, and here we are doing prayers inside. And you can see it's not finished, but usable. Yeah, one of the things we do in the home and teach the others to do is the festivals. This is Hanukkah. We're lighting the candles for Hanukkah here. And here we're having Sukkot, and Nelson is climbing up. I planted those palm trees, and he's climbing up to get palm leaves, and you'll see the finished product. We covered the roof with palm leaves, and you can see the tree right to the right there. That's a avocado tree. We get huge avocados. Like I planted it too. I'm doing what God tells you to do. You're to plant fruit trees when you're. That's our Sukkot, a finished product. You see where there's our challah bread. Those are mats that they make with some kind of river reeds. And so we just nail them on there. We love Sukkot. So, and what else do we do for Sukkot? We butcher a goat. So this is a very popular way to travel, local way to travel called Boda Boda. This one's a motorcycle, of course. I ride them in Kampala all the time, praying all the way. And I tell him, not so fast, not so fast. But anyway, so he went and purchased us a goat to butcher and have for Sukkot. That's Isaac. He was a Karman young boy. Okay, and then this is one of our congregations several years ago that would meet on Sabbath. And you see Helen's there with her family. Our bookkeeper was there with her family. Now about 10 of them are in the university. And about a number more. If you look in the back, there's a man with a marine shirt. That's Teacher John. And his brother, Teacher David, is to the right. But anyway, I'll tell you, Teacher David came to me, and he thought he was going to really tell me something. He was getting a little bit idea about our Jewish foundation. I mean, it's just a little bit. And he saw my sign, Acts for Messiah. And he decided, he was scared. For a long time, he didn't come in. And he finally came in and started talking to me. And, of course, I began to tell him stuff. And by the time he left, he had Daniel Lancaster's Restoration, and I believe King of the Jews. And became a faithful, him and his brother came for 1 year as we taught. We used Torah Club 1 and went during the week. We did How You Sewed with them. Now teacher David lives up in Mount Elgon. He's a teacher in Truro, but he teaches up Mount Elgon. And he has built a room. He has a congregation, 2 congregations. And he goes all over to the Messianic congregations, encouraging, teaching, and bringing unity. And he's also a talented church planter, and he has started congregations. And his brother John is in 3 congregations in Mbali, just north towards the Mount Elgon area. I want to be sure I tell this right. One congregation meets in a home, another congregation where people from the Mount Elgon Jews, just reading Isaiah, came to believe in Jesus. They have about 4 or 5 miles out, they have a congregation they want us to come to. And then there's another congregation, and they were members of a congregation that kept the Sabbath, but they had left it but remained a congregation. And when Teacher John went to meet with them, they heard about Teacher John and said, come see us. As he got there, they were discussing who started Sabbath, because they had been a part of, someone who kept Sabbath. And they weren't sure who started it. And they thought, well, maybe the prophetess Helen started Sabbath. So as Pastor John began to share Torah with them, they didn't even know it existed. They said the leader sat there, his hands folded, amazed at what he was hearing. Okay, this is the church, or the building for the Jews that were shunned out of Mount Elgon. They live in the area of Palisa. They're strong in their faith, but they're very, very poor. I don't know if you ever heard of cassava. It's actually tapioca. It's a white rooty plant. For Sabbath, all they may get to eat is some boiled cold cassava with salt. And that might be the only food they have. Here we're inside. We're reading scriptures, and you can see the menorah on the mud wall. And you can see there, this is how we found them. These are the ones who want teaching about the New Testament. Here's from the back, this is the congregation. And these people have started congregations. I know at one point there were 6 or 7, but now I'm hearing more. Okay, I'm trying to introduce you to the Messianics there, and then I'll get to the children, but Teacher David came and told us about, there's a youth conference in Uganda, about an hour and 20 minutes away, and wanted our youth to go. And so I contacted my director, and he said, good idea, send me the money, and this is their transportation to go out into the village, and it's quite far. It's about 12 miles, horrible road. And I was there actually for the women's conference, and I had to ride a motorcycle, boda, and so I'm hanging on to the back like this and like this. My hand just got numb from hanging on. And I keep thinking, we're about there, and didn't even realize we weren't halfway yet. But so the children went, and they had a baptismal. That's one of the pastors. Oh, this is Pastor Moses from the Sessi Islands, and I just thought that was a good picture. I don't know what he's figuring out, but something. And there's our 4 girls who went singing a song, and they were so thrilled. They took prayers and songs and taught the youth things, and when they got home, they were so happy. So the Uganda, let me think, the Messianic community of Uganda, that's what they're called, has 3 conferences. They have this youth conference, they have the women's conference, and then they have a leadership conference. So if any of you leaders are interested, it's in January. Actually, the young man from Florida, Gabriel Joel, is going to be there for the leadership conference this year. And here, let me tell you, so after this conference, Nelson took them, invited all the leaders to our house. Now, they are based in Uganda, and they go more towards the southwest into Kampala, while we're on the east side. So he was so impressed. He invited them to our house. And so I haven't met most of them, the main leader especially. So I'm trying to figure out where he's coming from, because you don't want something weird, you want something that's... And so I began to ask questions, and he said, well, David Sloss from Canada comes for our leadership conference, and he uses FFOZ's materials. Then they said to me, and we have all of Daniel Lancaster's books. I thought, no, they don't have all of them. They probably have 2, but... So that meant we're on the same path. And the leader is right on the left. Now, the man on the right in the front is Teacher David and Teacher John's brother. He has a big congregation in Mukono, which is about an hour out of Kampala. Now, he's keeping Sabbath. Now, he wants somebody to come. And he has quite a well-established congregation, and he's also a teacher. He might be retired, but... So you can just see what God has done. Are there any questions? Because I'm kind of going to leave the subject of the Messianic... Oh, I don't have a watch on today. I have a Ugandan bracelet on. This is Ugandan clothes, by the way. Very popular style for the women to wear. So I'm kind of going to start on the children now, if that's okay. Well, you tell me how much more time do I have. Stop me when you want. Where's Pastor? Well, yeah, but you don't know how much I can talk, but I might lose my voice. I kind of want to show you how, I've been there 14 years. I kind of want to show you how the children have grown in those 14 years. The tall boy in the yellow and his little baby sister on the right. Okay, the tall boy in the middle was a street boy, probably since he was about 5 years old. He was left with the grandparents. I knew the grandfather. He was an evil alcoholic, bad heart. And so Isaac just joined the street kids to eat, only way to eat. Now the Karamajang want their children to go out and beg and to sort through the dust bins, the garbage. That's what they want their children to do. So they actually get a little upset with us when we remove them and start to educate them, because that's their source. So Isaac was so little, the other street boys, when he got too tired and couldn't walk anymore, the street boys would carry him. And so he's been with me since he was about 7 or 8 years old. I only have children about that old. In Uganda, you can only have either a baby's home or a children's. The babies are babies to 7 or 8, and the children's are from 7 to 8 older. I didn't want babies, so. So he's been in my home, he's educated. Excellent student. Very serious about his faith. Admirable young man. His little sister was still living with his mother and father. His father was an alcoholic. And one day I step out the door and there's 2 men sitting on my veranda. And they said, well, we came to tell you Isaac's mother has died. When's the funeral? I said, or burial? This afternoon. So we get in the van, we prepare to go. It's about 35 minutes away. And I knew about Mary. And I knew she had an older sister that was, the older sister was about 14 years old, and she came to me one day sick. And I took that girl to the clinic to get tested. I'm trying to think if I can remember. She was positive for HIV. She was positive for tuberculosis. She was positive for a number of, what do you call them? Gonorrhea, whatever, all those. Yeah, there you go, STDs, couldn't think of it. And I knew what would happen to Mary with her mother gone. And so I got my papers organized, ready for them to sign, to turn her over to me. And I just sent an email to America and said, I'm getting her. So, you see the face, the look on her face right there. She doesn't look happy. We went back to visit in about a month and a half, thinking she would like to see the people where she used to live. She didn't want to. She kept saying, you're deceiving me. You're going to leave me there. She was so scared. So, had another girl just the last year and a half when I went back. Same thing, came from Kampala. I kept saying, don't you want to go see your mother and grandmother? No, no, no. I said, you want to stay here? Yeah. So, oops. This is Isaac now. See how tall he has become? I'm looking up to him now. Oops, I messed something up again. It's not moving again. Because I missed one picture here. I thought I was being careful. Oh, okay. I wanted to see, we also have Leah now. I might get to her story. See how little Mary and Leah are there? I just want to see you to see how little they are. Here's Mary now on the right. Beautiful young girl. She kind of looks like a model when you when you take her picture. I call them little Leah and little Mary, yet they're about 13 or 14 years old. And little Monica's the last one that joined us. This is Gilbert. Gilbert we have 6, no, take 2 away, 4, because 2 have almost finished. So at the moment, I just finished 4 or 5 students in the university. And people, this has been where our money has gone. I don't like to mention money, but we just had a bill of $10,000 right now. Before I left Wednesday, I left Thursday, that we had to sort through. But Gilbert's in Cavendish. And he immediately became a leader, and I didn't really see that in Gilbert. And he was sent by the university to a UN conference representing their university and did such a good job. When he got back, the students decided they wanted him to be their student leader, which is guild president, there's 30,000 students, which is a very honorable position in Uganda in the university. You are very admired and very respected. Most of your presidents in the eastern parts there have been guild presidents. And he got back, the students had nominated him and paid for his fee. He had 1 week to campaign. And here you can see they're celebrating him being a winner. And one story, he's done a number of things that are just admirable. But I don't know if you all followed when Southern Sudan was having civil strife. There's a lot of international students in this school he goes to. And one of the students he was friends with, rebels went into the compound, killed the whole family, aunts, uncles, grandpa, grandma, mom and dad, children, everybody. And one sister was out, and she remained, and when she came back, she was so distraught, she wanted to commit suicide. So he went to a professor, he borrowed $200. He sent his friend, the brother of the sister, up to Sudan to collect his sister, bring her back, and then let her go to family in Kampala. After that happened, many of the Sudanese students weren't getting funds anymore. Their country's now in a civil war. And so they were going to have to leave the university, and they were going to have to go to refugee camps. So he immediately went to setting up a program for funds. He asked all the students to give about $2, $1.50, $2, 30,000 of them. And they set up the rules and regulations, and they made a system where they can borrow to students who run into these very extreme situations. And I'm proud. I can smile about that one. if you remember Isaac, I told you about Isaac. Well, he's now a first-year university student, except they do it at the high school boarding schools for 2 years instead of 1 year. And so you have visitation day. So here they took him some, they call them chips, but it's French fries. Took him some food. And Stanley, another street boy. Don't know if I'll get to his story or not. Don't know the time. Well, he was on the street and a pastor saw him pick up money that a handicapped person dropped and return it to him when he didn't know he dropped it. He brought him to my house and said, "This boy should not be on the streets." So I had no room for him, so we had him sleeping on the dining room table for a number of years. This is his sister, Anna, the most pleasant girl you would ever want to meet. She's just a gem. Okay, this is the Nangolis. This is a very typical house. It's called a waffle mut home. And, they can be very good if you fill them in properly and cover with a little cement. Now, on the inside, to keep the dust down, they use cow dung. And it dries very hard. It works very good. But it bothers my allergies. So whenever they know I'm coming to visit, they freshly smear the cow dung. And I'm going, "Ooh, don't put my purse on the floor." Okay, Robert Nangoli came from that home. He has now finished the university. He's a math wizard. He's on his second papers for the CPA. Plays the keyboard extremely well. Plays for a big church in Kampala. His father had 3 wives, and the father and the other 2 wives died of AIDS. That left him in the village with no hope. But were living in Tororo, just several houses in the back from us, and going to the same school as my children. Now, you talk about that being God, to bring them all together. So the girl in my home would say, "Mama, these boys come and they cry. Their father died." I said, "Isn't anybody helping?" She said, "No." I said, "Do they eat?" She said, "No. They stay at school for lunch." So I said, "Okay, they can come over for lunch." We were fixing about food enough for at least 20 people for lunch. And so they started coming for lunch. Of course, they came for supper, too. And pretty soon, the rent was no longer paid on the house. And where were they going to go? So I have got at least 3 children in my home by offering them 1 meal a day. And this is his younger brother, Kenny, getting ready to go to school. Okay, they have, this is kind of like an uncle to them, but they're all the same age. They're more like brothers. And Johnson, one of the things we have done for many of our boys is build them a hut in the village. They're supposed to have that. So we have done that. This is his hut we're building for him. His mother had him when she was very young, and she left the village to go get married, and he was given to his uncle, which is proper procedure, the oldest uncle. Well, the oldest uncle has a bad heart, even abuses his own children. What is he going to do with an orphan? So he chose, the uncles would not educate Johnson, and his job was to watch the cattle. Now, that's one of the lowest jobs you can do. You go out with the cattle, they do not give you food, and you drink the same water that the cattle drink. And another uncle, that would be Robert's and Kenny's dad, took pity on Johnson, took him into his home, and brought him into Tororo with him, and started getting him educated. And he's a wonderful young man. When he first came, they thought that the showers in my house, that was rain. God would bring rain to my showers. And one time he got left in the car and the doors shut, and he couldn't get out. And I found him in the car, so worried. And the children would come and say to me, "Auntie Emily, Johnson's hungry." And when they asked him, how do you know he's hungry? They said tears rolled down his face. Yeah, so I still have more stories, but another family. Peter, Lee, and Kane, their mother has HIV, AIDS, and she's an alcoholic. She had a hut up in Mambali, but the kids would have to go out to beg for food. And Peter was on the streets with Isaac. They worked together. The street kids make bonds. I'm not going to go into too much detail again because I still don't know what time. Peter, there he's become a big man. John, so there were three of them that traveled together on the street, and this is John. He was about 16 or 17 when he came in the home. And I have learned since they sniff glue. So they have bottles hanging around their neck for comfort. It takes care of the hunger. And you can see the street kids with the glue bottle in their noses. And one of the sisters in BI has told me that it burns permanent holes in their brains. It will never recover. So he's very impulsive. But boy, he can get Torah. You can read it to him and he'll feed it right back to you. But he wasn't able to learn to read, but he's very good at music. That is his mother. She died when I was here in America, so he's total orphan now. In Uganda, I need a drink here. You're an orphan if you have one parent. Or I will call them total orphans. They have neither. Any questions? I could tell you more stories, but I know we got to finish up. Is it time about to finish up? Close, okay. Because I want to answer questions. Now, I always try to answer people's questions, and food is one of their interests, right? Collard greens, pressure cook them. We live next to Kenya, and this is called Sukuma wiki. That's not Arab, that's Swahili. And so we cook it in the pressure cooker. I couldn't live another modern convenience pressure cooker. And there it is with, we put some eggs in it and tomatoes and onions and fry, and we'll serve it over, millet bread, corn. Okay, it's not bread, it's like a mush, a very thick mush. Rice, sweet potatoes. And that's our charcoal stove again. This is jackfruit. It's as big as a watermelon. And when you cut it, it becomes very sticky. It will even stain your clothes. You can never get it out. So you put oil in your hands. But those melons are so sweet. Pineapple grows right in my area. Tilapia. There's only 2 lakes in the world that are indigenous to tilapia. The rest is farmed. What you get, folks, it's farmed. But if you come, Lake Victoria is one of those lakes. We will serve you tilapia you will love. And the other one is the Sea of Galilee. So they wonder if there wasn't one day something that connected those two. And then there's the Rift Valley that connects us. We feel very connected to Israel. And the culture, we feel very connected to Israel. Women, your job. Carry wood, carry water, cook the fire, grow the food. One time, I tried to pick up a bundle of wood those women were carrying. I couldn't even pick it up. Other women will take the bundle and put it on the other lady's head. And the jerry cans, I should have a picture of jerry cans. The water, I can hardly carry it like this, besides on your head. But that's the woman's job. And street kids. Girls are wanted if they're orphans, because you don't have to educate a girl. Why educate a girl? She's just going to get married. She can carry water, she can carry wood, she can work. And when she's 18, you can get her married and you can get bride price. Now, if you have a boy and he's in the family, you have to give him family land, which is getting scarce. You have to have bride price for him to get a wife. You are expected to educate him. So it's mostly boys out on the streets. But the girls are still married to, men you don't want to be married to. They're given away for money. Another way to do transport, do you see that bicycle in the middle with the sofa frames? That's in one of the busiest roundabouts in Kampala. Another way to transport all the time, you see this. One time I guess a matoki fell off and a man fell off, and they thought that was just an odd thing. I thought, no, to me that would happen, yeah. And somebody else asked me when we had visitors, how do you wash clothes? How do they wash their clothes? So you have a picture there, and they take the clothing. Because one time I was washing my clothes, and I was going like this. They said, they'll never get clean. You got to go like this. So there's a proper way. And, but I don't know if you all heard the story how one time ago, when I was back, I cooked a challah bread and sold it to the people in the congregation. I raised $800, and I bought a wash machine. But there's one thing. You have to have both electric and water to run your wash machine. So sometimes you can wash and sometimes you can't. Well, since I've been gone, they went without electricity for 30 days. Yeah. Baboons. There's a Busatima forest between us and Kampala. If you come, you'll see baboons. Don't worry. Sippy Falls. This is up Mount Elgon. If you come, we can visit Sippy Falls. Beautiful. And actually, any questions, and I'll try to stop.
Emily, there's a lot of if you come.
Oh, well, I'm inviting. I'm inviting. I've been told that if you're going to go to Africa, Uganda's the best place to start. People are very kind, very gentle, and lovely. My daughter has a sister-in-law who's a big, big lawyer. She travels on vacations all over the world, and she hires, she came and visited me, and I just took her to the villages. She just did what we do. She said she had the best time of her life. So.
We have a site prep leader in the congregation named Tim Kelly, so he'll be connecting with you, going down there and scoping out with us.
It's a 16-hour flight. You can't go. You have to have a layover. It depends on how you fly, either Amsterdam, Belgium, London. And one of those places you lay over, and then you go on to Entebbe, which is about an hour from Kampala. On Lake Victoria, very beautiful.
And you're there when?
Well, I've been away this time, and I really actually planned to go back in September, but I have a daughter with an emergency, and so I'm sticking around. And, I'm getting older, quite a bit older. And so I said, I'll just be like the old people that go to Florida. I have a home in Uganda. Just go 6-7 months to Uganda, and then summer's here. So then I have summer the year round. I won't come home in March again. Only an emergency. What I want to do, I love my home there. It's very basic. It's not fancy, very simple, but I love it. I'm comfortable. And I would like to just take care of the home and go out and visit the congregations. But I'm not going to be in charge of the yeshivas and the leaders of the Messianic community. That Gabriel Joel is going to be working on doing that, organizing that. He's like a man from Florida. He's going to come once a year, and he's going to work with them online and
Stay over there for a period of time.
6 weeks only. So we'll see how it works, but at least we got somebody who's an organizer and understands how to set up this kind of.
Anybody from Bethel Manuel?
Nope. I have begged. So, and I was going to say one thing about him coming over. And you see 4 of the leaders are teachers. They're very wise. I mean, they're very intelligent. They can do it. Just with a little supervision or information. You know, they want materials. That's what they want. That's been their cry. Teachers and materials. Is there any other questions? Oh. Okay, two good subjects. Good subjects. It's a big subject because the lady I stay with in Hudson is coming, and that's been a big subject. 10 years ago, Uganda had Ebola. I'm not scared of it. And since that first time, they are very organized. The minute Ebola breaks out, they go into action. And I just think the West wasn't very organized, something different, because Uganda has been able to control it. And it's not usually in our area. It's usually in the north, in the Sudan area, in the Congolese side, because they go out and they eat wild game. And I have my own theory there, but eating monkeys or whatever. So let me see. And safety. One young man who was there told me that if missionaries die in Uganda, it's usually car accidents. The roads are bad, traffic's not good. We have about 20% Muslims, but they're peaceful. They had sent, I don't know if they're still doing it, soldiers to Somalia. And we did get bombed during the previous World Series where big people would congregate to watch the World Series. That's happened once. What has happened in New York too? I mean, the government has been over 25 years, and it's, you know, we're kind of in a police state, but we do have freedom of religion, and they keep the country at peace with their tear gas and everything else. So I'm not afraid. And most people come over and tell me they're not afraid. So. I bless you. I thank you for giving me a wonderful, wonderful invitation and treating me like such a special person. I just, you know, this is easy for me to do because it's just me. I have no problem with it.